the people in your life that cross your boundaries aren't necessarily jerks. They're just people that are used to getting their way and not used to having you stand up and request something in response. So don't villainize the people in your life that overstep into your own boundaries. Decide it's your responsibility to set those a little bit stronger and maintain them. Yo, yo, yo. How you doing? Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Let's Keep Talking. I'm your host, Braxton Gilbert, and today we are doing our third episode on boundaries. Boundaries are so important. So important in our relationships with other people, and they can be quite the challenge, which is why we've done 3 episodes on boundaries. Boundaries can be tough, man. So this is the third and final episode for this series on boundaries. If you're just hopping into the show and you haven't checked it out before, welcome. Thanks for joining us. If you have been watching the show and you've been continuing in this series, then you are really primed and ready for this episode. But I do request, if you haven't watched the other episodes and you're new to boundaries, go back and listen to them, man, because they're really helpful to see what are boundaries from a high level, what are the basic boundaries. Last week, we talked about how to strengthen those boundaries, those personal boundaries, and this week we're talking about how to defend them in real life. If you're brand new to the concept, then you really want to go check those out. If you have boundaries, you've established boundaries personally, and you're not new to boundaries, and you do want to know just how to negotiate your boundaries with other people, how to defend them in real life, then yeah, welcome. Thanks for joining into this episode. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you enjoy your time listening. Negotiating your boundaries. Let's talk about this. In short, the question that we're addressing today is, what do I do if someone doesn't respect my boundaries? When someone transgresses a boundary that you've set for yourself in relationships with other people, you have 2 options. One, you can either compromise on your boundary and begin to develop resentment towards that person. Not ideal, not good, not healthy, and definitely not good for the relationship long term. Or you can stay true to yourself and remind them that this relationship is valuable to you, but will only continue if your boundaries are upheld. Now, that takes a lot of strength. It really, really does take a lot of strength, but it's not supernatural strength. Supernatural strength is not what you require here to remind people that they've overstepped your boundaries. If it does sound like it would need to be supernatural strength, then I highly encourage you to go back and listen to the last episode. So those are your 2 options, and today I hope to encourage you to take the second one. I really don't want you in your relationships with others, man. I don't want you to compromise and develop resentment. Resentment is a relationship killer. Resentment is when you begin to disrespect the people in your life. When you develop resentment towards someone else, you begin to disrespect them in your mind. You begin to see them less. You begin to see them as a villain or a person who's wrong, and that's going to affect the way you treat them. I think one of the greatest safeguards against a healthy relationship is to try not to develop resentment, or in other words, don't allow yourself to be treated in a way that you don't agree with. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of courage, even a lot of skill, to ensure that relationships stay healthy. And one of those things is speaking up to mistreatment. And that's what boundaries are all about, is identifying mistreatment and speaking up. Here's the bottom line. You cannot make someone respect your boundaries. You cannot make someone treat you a certain way. You can't make people act the way you'd like them to act. So it's only important that you know the ways that you want to be treated and the ways that you treat others, that you know that, and that you're willing to walk away when someone doesn't abide by those. Now, that is a whole book in itself. That's a whole pearl of wisdom and life lesson all in that statement. And if there's anything I wish for you, the listener, man, I wish that when that happens, when someone doesn't respect your boundary and you make it clear to them and you establish that this is really important to you and that you'd like them to ensure that this doesn't happen again, and they continue to cross it, I hope and I pray that you have the strength to bow out of that relationship. The people in your life that cross your boundaries aren't necessarily jerks. They're just people that are used to getting their way and not used to having you stand up and request something in response. So don't villainize the people in your life that overstep into your own boundaries. Decide it's your responsibility to set those a little bit stronger and maintain them. Some people aren't jerks. They're just used to getting their way with everybody, and they're expecting that that's going to fly with you too. So sometimes people overstepping is not even malicious or selfish. It's just ignorant. So what I want to do is give you 3 things to hold on to as a guiding light when things get a little tense because you've decided to set your boundaries with people. Now, before we get into these 3 things, I want to clarify that when you're defending your boundaries with someone else, I want you to know, please listen, it is not a win-lose scenario. We're talking about relationships with people. Relationships are not about winning and losing. They're about relating to someone, and they're about maintaining harmony and peace so that you guys can get along. You guys can continue on your relationship together. You're not trying to rack up points. Boundaries ensure that you're treated fairly and that you treat other people fairly, and sometimes those are overstepped. So when you're defending your boundaries against someone who's accidentally or even on purpose overstepping them, it's really important that you remember this is not a win-lose scenario. You're not trying to beat somebody with your reasons that they should not treat you that way. This is not a win-loss scenario. So if at any point during defending a boundary, if you begin to feel like this is a competition, breathe for a second, man. Relax for a second, because this is not a competition. We're not trying to win anything, or we're not going to lose anything. This is just about speaking up for your truth inside that says, hey, this is not how I'm okay with being treated. So I want to put words to that and let you know that this isn't cool. This is not a win or lose. This is about communicating your no to someone else and honoring them. So the 3 themes, the 3 things I want you to think about when in the moment of defending a boundary with somebody to allow that to go smoothly, because this is where I can get really hairy and really hellish, is when someone says, I don't want us to treat each other like this. And someone says, well, that's just ridiculous. That's stupid. That's selfish. Oh, that's so childish. That's so cruel. Whatever they say. The first thing I want to give you is this. In the moment that someone pushes back with an argument against a boundary that you hold true, the first thing you can do to navigate that situation really successfully is being open to changing your boundary. This may sound like it's a contradiction. I've told you to understand boundaries and strengthen your boundaries, and here's how to defend them. The first step is being willing to change it? Well, yeah, 100%. It's deeply important to you. This boundary is tremendously important to you, and you've worked really hard on establishing it. But any conversation to go well should be an open-minded conversation. I'm open to listening to what you have to say. If you aren't open to listening, and by the way, being open to listening to someone's argument against your boundary is a sign of a strong boundary. A weak boundary, you're like, la 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 la. A weak boundary, you close your ears off, and you don't want to hear it. It's like someone who has a weak belief in their God or their faith. They don't want to hear a conversation that comes from the other side. But if you're strong and you're rooted in your beliefs, especially about your boundaries and why you think it's important, then you're open-minded to other people's opinions. You're not open-minded for them to say, you're being stupid and you're an idiot and this is so dumb, but for them to say, hey, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. That doesn't make sense to me. How is that? Well, I'd love to have this conversation because I love you. I love our relationship. And this is an important boundary, an important line in the sand for me, but it seems that it doesn't make sense to you. So let's talk about it. The second thing I want you to do, and I want you to settle this into your soul so you can really rest on this concept, is listen for what they're saying and sort it out. Listen to what someone's saying and sort it out between attacks on you as a person. That's so stupid. You're childish. You're so selfish. How dare you? You think you can do that to me after all I've done for you? We don't do that, man. Not happening. You don't use guilt, shame, attacks to try to negotiate with someone. You don't do that. So if someone says, you're so stupid, this is so childish, that's so idiotic, that's so damn selfish, you're being ridiculous, oh, okay. If they say, oh, fine, okay, well then enjoy your fucking island of one then and walk off. Let them walk off. Let them walk off, man. You'll save yourself a lot of heartache. But you want to listen for attacks and feedback. Because if someone tells you that, I don't really think that's all that considerate of other people. I don't really think that's realistic. I don't really think that that is reasonable. I don't really think that's fair. Okay. It doesn't seem you think my boundaries are fair or realistic or considerate. Okay. I hear those reasons. Why not? Right? If you're really listening, and again, you're open-minded, then you might be like, why not? Why not? Why do not these seem fair? Why do you not think these are considerate? And then you can have a conversation. Look at us. We've arrived in a conversation with someone. This is really, really good. We've arrived into a conversation with someone. But sort them out and only respond to one. Okay? We don't respond to the guilt and the shame and the attacks, although that's difficult. I know, because your teeth come out too. If you can, the best you can, man, try to center yourself on listening for feedback, listening for reasons, and inquiring about those. Now, here's another thing I want to tell you here. Don't change boundaries in the middle of a conversation. Okay, so I said be willing to change your boundaries, be willing to open them up, and listen. Now, the second thing is listen to sort out guilt, shame, attacks versus actual reasons. You're just collecting this information to consider adjusting your boundary. Okay, so this is more of a gathering of information. So you can go back to your whiteboard at home. And by the way, this should be respected by people. Healthy people will respect your right to take time to consider the conversation you've had. You don't buy something when you're on the phone, and you don't change your boundaries when you're in the middle of a heated argument with someone about whether or not your boundaries are realistic or considerate or ideal or not. Instead, being open, listening, sorting out between the attacks and the reasons, and then asking to clarify this. What do you mean? What is it about my boundaries that you feel are unrealistic or not safe, or what are they? And then listen. And just because they give you great reasons you haven't considered before doesn't mean you lose the situation. Again, it's not a win-loss. It's two people trying to navigate relationships the best they can. And at this point, this person may provide some really good information you haven't considered. So be willing to open your mind and consider them, and inquire when someone gives you reasons why they don't think your boundary is realistic. And the third thing I want you to keep in mind, and this is a really great one, in the moment, it's going to feel rushed. It's going to feel like you have to make a decision now. It's going to feel like you have to figure out this conversation now and have to solve this problem now. Be really mindful in conversations with other people. When you're in an argument with somebody, be mindful of the moments when they try to press you to make a decision now and to take on their opinion now or to defend your opinion now. Some people are really skilled with timing. I'm one of those people. I think really well in the moment and can generate angles and attacks and perspectives in the moment of a conversation with almost to the level of cruelty. And it's not at all sometimes about being right as much as it is just being quicker on your feet. That's why some, presidential debates, sometimes a great candidate for the, for the president of the United States might make great points and have good perspectives and really strong beliefs about something, but not be as sharp and quick-witted as someone else. And so they might appear weaker. So I want you to understand that it's not weak at all to say, okay, I hear what you're saying. I'm not going to make a decision right now on this, but I am going to consider what you're saying and get back to you, maybe, the next couple days about this. That sounds completely freaking taboo, to be having a conversation or an argument with a partner and for them to say, you're being ridiculous, or this isn't cool, or whatever, them getting mad at you for you saying, I want you to stay back there. And then you saying, I'd like to consider what you said and return to this in about a day or so. But I'm telling you, that is legitimately, that is one of the foundations of a healthy engagement with someone during conflict, is losing the timer, man. You don't have to make a decision now. You don't have to reconsider your boundaries now in terms of making a decision. But some people will try to wear you down and try to get you to agree with them. Beware of people that try to wear you down and get you to agree with them in conversations. You want to talk to smart people, strong people, people who won't want to manipulate you by cornering you into an A or B decision when they're both making them look right. Take your time with conversations that are about boundaries. Take your time to listen and respond at your own pace. Be as slow as you really are. Don't fake it. Don't react. Respond. And if you can't respond, ask for more time. When you're in a heated, this could even just go to overall, arguments, but we are talking about arguments over boundaries. When you're in a heated moment with someone, respond. Don't react. Don't react to somebody whenever you're in a heated conversation or an argument, especially with a partner, because you might say something you really don't mean. Instead, respond. And responding means opening your eyes to all of the things that are going on here, their feelings, your feelings, the overall goal of the relationship, and taking a moment to say, my body feels normal. I feel like I'm breathing. I feel like I'm not in a win or lose type of scenario. I'm not in a fight or flight situation. And here's my response to this. Think about the way you would respond to something if you took a few days to think about it. How you'd respond. Not out of anger, not out of this burst of emotion. Respond. Don't react in moments of tension. And if you can't respond, ask for more time. If you can't respond mindfully and consciously during a moment of tension with someone, ask for more time. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I need about 20 minutes to just gather my thoughts about this and return to this conversation. So I'll be back. It's going to be about a half hour. Or saying, hey, obviously this is something that's really important to you too, because you're coming at it with a lot of strength. Let's pick this conversation up in about a day or so. I don't want to throw this conversation under the rug. I want to have it, but I want to have it after I've had some time to think about this. That's really important, man. If you're not quick on your feet during arguments, people could steamroll you. And you don't need to learn to be quick on your feet. You really don't. You just need to learn to say, hey, obviously you're saying a lot. Let me review what you said. I think you said that you think it was stupid. You think that this is unfair, right? Because it doesn't consider your feelings. You think that it's this and the other, right? That's what you said? Okay. Oh, is there something else I missed? Okay, let me write that down, right? And this is not patronizing or mocking them. And then you say, okay, give me some time because I really want to consider these because I love you, I care about you, and I want to consider your feelings, especially if they are in direct conflict with the way that I view this. And what do you say? Let's pick this up maybe tomorrow around lunchtime. Let's talk about it then, huh? That's a great way to do this. These are 3 themes that when you have some real pushback in your life with people that you can employ to create an environment of safety, respect, and just generally good for true conversation. Be willing to change your boundary. In other words, be open-minded. Listen when someone is pushing back against your boundaries by saying, what do you mean? What is it that you're saying? Is it guilt and shame and attacks, or is it legitimate reasons that you think that this isn't going to work in a relationship? Because I'm open to that. I want to be someone with strong boundaries that are well thought out. And if you're giving me some well thought out criticism, then I'll listen to it, definitely. And third, be as slow as you really are. If you're not quick on your feet and can think fast in conversations, then bring a notepad, man. Write down the things that people say. What is it you don't like about this? Let me make some notes because I'd like to think about this more. That'll take less time. If you really do need to process away from the conversation, it might take you a day initially, and then you might get to where you can do it later that day. But I think very quickly you'll learn how to be a little bit faster during conversations. But again, you don't have to learn how to be faster. You just have to give yourself the adequate amount of time you need to process it. Sometimes people are a lot faster in conversations than we are, and that's cool. Great for them. They can win an award. But if you take longer to process moments, then take your time to process those moments. And lastly, do it scared. You'll get used to standing up for yourself. But at first, you have to do it even when you feel like you just might shit your pants. So, do it scared. Because it's the courageous thing to do. Even if your entire life you have spent your days thinking you're responsible for the well-being of other people, and now you're beginning to set boundaries for them, that change is good. That's great. That is contributing to the healthy relationships of the entire planet. That's your corner of the world. And I hope and pray that you find the courage to do just that. Thanks for listening to this episode of Let's Keep Talking. I surely hope you enjoyed it. And I hope to see you next week. See ya.